All right, so I was asked to do a video breaking down the price of building this house. It was a 2-year project, and you'll have to watch part 1 and part 2 of the Adirondack Ranch. But it was a big project. This is my second house that I've built by myself. I'm not a professional builder. I have worked with a couple different crews in the past over the years. They taught me everything I know. A bunch of good dudes. If you're planning on building a home, do your research. Prepare for a lot of hard work. If you're married, it's going to test your marriage. Keep that in the front of your mind, because that's a big part of building a house by yourself. Be patient with one another. I'm not so good at it, but we've been married 16 years, so I think we can weather any storm that comes along. But anyways, so I made a little cheat sheet here for me. I'll break down everything that I can remember. True costs at the time. All right, here we go. First thing we did, we bought some land. We're in the Adirondack Park. We bought the side of a mountain. It's pretty secluded. We overpaid for it, but to me it was worth it because it's secluded and I like my privacy. So we got 43 grand just in property. And be mindful of the kind of property you buy, because this one, I didn't really think it through when we bought it. Being that it's the side of a mountain, it's very bony, meaning there's a lot of big boulders. So we had to bring in a lot of dirt, which is our first big expense. Just in dirt, this includes my driveway as well. It's about $35,000 just in dirt. That's not even topsoil yet. That's coming this spring, hopefully, if I can get my dump truck running. But 35 grand in dirt, that's a big chunk of our budget, and that kind of hurt a lot when we got that bill. But something you have to do. Especially if you're building a slab. If you've been doing it in a basement, you can get away a little bit with some stuff, but we can't put a basement in here. Too many boulders and too bony, probably hit ledge. I'm not a huge fan of basements anyway. They're just money pits, problems waiting to happen. If I could do this over, I'd probably put in frost walls and a crawl space. This is just on a slab. All my plumbing is in the ground, so if anything goes wrong, I got some major digging to do, and it'll be costly repairs. So we were trying to do this on a budget. Frost walls probably would have been about the same price. I didn't really plan it out properly, but I was in a rush. I'm impatient and I like to move. So moving on, we got 35 grand in dirt. Our plans and permits, that was about 2,500 bucks. I brought a set of my hand drawings to an architect to make these look right, make them look official. He did it up, and again, we're in the Adirondack Park, so I had to deal with the APA and the local town. They all want fees and whatever. We got the concrete work done. This is a huge expense, especially if you're doing a slab of any kind, really, because concrete work is ridiculous nowadays. When I was getting quotes for this, it was $38,000. This is a fairly big slab. The garage is 38 by 28, and the house is 66 by 36 with haunches, so it eats up quite a bit of concrete. I ended up finding a guy that would just help me out with the labor. He had a couple dudes. The cost of the concrete itself was about $15,000. Then I had to pay for a pump truck, which is about $1,000, and then his labor, which was about 5 grand. I saved a ton of money. If you know people that can do concrete work, have at it, but be leery. This floor is not perfect. There's a bunch of floor leveler in here, but it beats paying 38 grand for basically guys drinking beer at the end of the day. There's a lot of foam underneath this slab. XPS foam. It's 2 inches thick. You lay it under, it helps retain the heat in there. That was about 6 grand just in foam. There's a ton of it there. To the framing package, that was $54,000. Stay away from your box stores. They're not going to give you the best deal on that stuff. Go to a contractor store like I dealt with Samples and Curtis. Whatever you got in your local area, use those guys. Stay away from Lowe's and Home Depot. They're not going to help you out when it comes to framing. The reason our framing package was so expensive, we had a lot of LVL beams, which are above these garage doors here. They hold a lot of weight, and they're not going to sag over time. The front porches are wrapped in those as well, plus every big window has them on it. It's a little overkill, but I've seen a lot of houses sag, and I didn't want that. Plus, we have attic trusses, so the trusses alone were half of our framing package. Attic trusses are pretty expensive. There's attic above the garage and half of our house, and then it goes to scissor trusses, which are also a little bit more expensive. But you can do it cheaper with standard trusses. They're quite a bit cheaper. We could have saved a lot of money there, but that's what we wanted in this house. A cost you don't really expect is going to hit you that hard is the cost of wire and all your electrical equipment. There's about $2,000 just in wire in this house. There's 5 spools of 12-2 in here. These are 1,000-foot spools. There's a lot of wire in this house. It gets expensive. And then you got the breaker box and the meter box and your 3-wire or 4-wire or whatever you're running. That's about $1,000 for all that stuff too. And then your insulation. This is a huge thing where you can save money or spend a shit ton of money. We use batten insulation. A lot of people like spray foaming. It's very expensive. I don't really recommend it. There's a lot of houses that are crumbling and rotting out because of spray foam. They spray foam everything in the house, and it's too tight. It doesn't breathe. Moisture will collect and just rot your house from the inside out. And just be leery. Certain areas are okay to spray foam. We got a quote to do our cathedral ceiling in here because I really didn't want to hang on scaffolding for 3 days. And it was $35,000 just to do that ceiling. And I said, yeah, I'm good. I'll just throw bats up there and spend the 3 days. But we got $6 grand into this house in insulation, which is pretty decent. And another thing too, look at for stuff like this, go get a contractor's account at Lowe's or Home Depot and shop around. You can save a shit ton of money. Also, I forgot to mention with the framing package, that's all your sheeting too. That's all your Advantech for the ceiling, or knockoff Advantech, whatever they got, or for the roof rather, and your OSB for the walls. But getting onto the roofing, that was one thing I did hire out. I don't like doing roofing. It's very hard to do by yourself. So I hired the Amish to hang the tin. They did a pretty good job. They were only here a couple days. That was $19,000. That was all my tin and 3 days worth of labor for them. And it was a big bill to bite, but again, it's one of those things I can't do by myself. If I shingled it, I could have done that by myself. It would take me a couple days, but I didn't want shingles. I like tin. Another thing to consider if you're building a house, shingles versus tin, they both have their advantages. They both have their disadvantages. Just do your research and do what's best for you. Siding on a house, vinyl siding is very expensive. So I went with tin, corrugated tin. We have a local Amish company up about an hour and a half from here. Shout out to Yoders. Not that he'll ever see this video, but I bought all my tin from him. I spent about $3 grand. That wrapped the entire house in tin, minus the front and back porch, which I did vinyl cedar shake. That was about $3,000 as well. I was going to do real shake, but the cost of real cedar shake is ridiculously expensive. It would have cost me $3 grand per porch, and I just wasn't about to spend that kind of money. So I went with a vinyl solution, and it came out pretty good. Windows, another thing you can save money or spend money on. We went with Pella windows, double insulated. That was $15,000. You can get cheaper windows. I suggest that if you're going to put windows in, you can get them pre-hung with casing on it. your interior molding or whatever. Don't waste your money on that shit. We bought it thinking I was going to save time. They don't work because you end up having to put extension jams on every one of them. So I ripped them out anyway and said to hell with it. I made my own and they look better anyway. So you can save a little bit of money. Don't buy the jams on there already. Make your own. Saves you a lot of money. It's a little bit more time consuming, but it's worth it in the end. Sheetrock. We only have a couple rooms in this house. That was about $7,000. The rock itself was not expensive. That was about $1,000 maybe. It was the labor for mudding and taping. That was another thing I hired out because I suck at doing it and I don't have the patience for it. These dudes did a great job mudding and taping. They were here for about 2 weeks. Everything's flat, everything's smooth. Can't see any lines. Great job. Seguin's painting and taping down in Ausable. Good dudes. The chimney in here, that's all ceramic faux stone. I did all that myself. I got about $2,000 into that. That's pretty simple. There's not a lot there. The pellet stove, that was about $6,000. That heats our whole house. And you can save money there. That's another thing to research on. What do you want to heat with? We do have mini splits in here. That was about $6,000 for that whole system too. Cabinets, we only spent $7,000 on cabinets. Now, this is another thing you gotta do your research on. You can go to Lowe's and buy their shit cabinets. Don't recommend them. You can go to any box store and spend a fortune on these freaking things. Or you can go to my buddies down here in Peru at Apple Country Cabinets. They'll hook you up with awesome cabinets and do the work. Phenomenal guys. You're gonna spend $25,000 to $30,000 there. I spent $7,000, hung them myself. I got these at auction. There's a company that goes around and does all these excess building auction stuffs where he gets all these supplies from box stores or wherever he gets them from, and he sells them at auction. And that's a good way to save money. If you can find these auctions, Facebook Marketplace, whatever, that's the way to save money. I got a $20,000 kitchen for $7,000 and couldn't be happier. Countertops, another thing that can go up or down. Granite is ridiculous. Quartz is ridiculous. Nobody likes laminate. It looks like shit. But if that's you, that's you. We got butcher block. Surprisingly cheap. I think we got $1,500 in that big ass kitchen we got, and it's all hardwood, walnut. I think each slab was like $400 or $500, so worked out pretty good. Flooring, another item I got at auction. We got vinyl flooring throughout the whole house. I only spent $3,000 on that, and like I said, this is a big slab and a lot of floor to cover, so that worked out good. Our boiler system that literally only heats our hot water, that was about $3,000 with all the copper and manifolds and what have you. Tongue and groove, that was a big expense. I did buy some at auction that was like commercial grade. Don't ever do that. It's a waste of money. I'm hanging it in random spots, cutting it up for trim, whatever. You have to sand and seal all that stuff, and it takes days and days and days. So I decided I wasn't going to use that in the house. I went to Makes's in Ausable, and they hooked me up with pre-finished tongue and groove, all premium grade stuff. We spent about $10,000 there. Worth it, 100% worth it. And if you compare that to the price with the sheetrocking and mudding and taping, it's almost worth just doing everything in tongue and groove. Paint's expensive. We got about $1,000 in there. The septic system, me and my uncle did that here by ourselves. There's about $3,000 in that between the leach field, the septic tank, and us doing all the work, and then bringing in some dirt. There's about $3,000. The garage doors behind me, these were $6,000. Another expense that can go either way. I mean, you can get basic white cheap ass doors for probably half of that. And then you can get high-end doors, which I wanted to get. They're like the cedar plank ones. Those are like 11 grand. I was like, nah, we're gonna dumb that down a little bit. And then there's trim. I got about 3 grand just in trim between stain, poly, and buying all the trim boards, and countless pieces of sandpaper. And then there's a miscellaneous, 5 grand, give or take. You're gonna run to the store a lot. You're gonna get pieces of hardware you don't know you need. You're gonna get boxes of nails that are $100 a box. You're gonna get tools that you didn't know you needed. Another thing you can get on Marketplace for pretty reasonable. But all in all, my house, $268,000, and this was me doing 98% of the work by myself. If you paid a contractor to build this house, you're going to be probably $800,000, and the contractor's going to get rich real quick. But that's just the way things goes. That's why I chose to do this myself. And this was a bigger project than maybe some of y'all want to tackle. I know I'm not looking forward to doing this again. Hopefully this will be my last one, because it is expensive and it's taxing on your health, your stress level, your marriage, your kids. Like, I devoted 2 years of my life to this, and I'm not going to get that time back. But I have a house that's paid for. It's free and clear from the bank. And I know where every issue is in the house. I know where everything's not square. I know where every little problem is. Nobody's going to know it but me. It drives me nuts. But that's the way some guys are. Well, there's your price breakdown. Hope it helps. Do your research. You can probably build a similar house cheaper than I did. Like I said, I was kind of in a rush. I didn't take my time planning out my budget too well. I just jumped into it full bore like a contractor and got the job done as quick as I could do it. So there you have it. Hope you enjoyed.